4 years ago, on the 16th of October, the 13th of October 2006, my cousin James McCready Bryan was the victim of an alcohol-related assault. This date was also significant for another reason. It was the night of James's 20th birthday. Now James, or MB as he was often called, received just a single punch. However, it wasn't this punch which inflicted James's acquired brain injury, but rather the impact of his head hitting the ground, the sound of which was described as that of a hand clap. In reality, this hand clap was James's skull colliding with the pavement. Now, when you hit your head, your brain swells, but trapped inside your head, it has nowhere to go. So it squashes what's known as the brainstem, which is located at the base of your skull. Now, your brainstem controls all of your breathing, your heartbeat, and when damaged, it essentially shuts off your life support and kills you. When James hit the ground and didn't get up, his attackers fled the scene cowardly. James's best mate called an ambulance when he realised that James was no longer breathing. And with his mobile phone on loudspeaker, paramedics explained instructions to him on how to provide emergency CPR to keep James alive. Now, MB was an incredibly smart guy. At the time, he was studying arts law at Monash University and was just gearing up for another 6-month South American adventure with his best friend. He had a girlfriend, a younger brother who idolised him, and a huge group of friends that frequently retell the legendary stories of James's high school shenanigans. As you can see, he led a normal, exciting 20-year-old's life. The night of James's 20th birthday started out at his football presentation. Although James was a little guy, he was incredibly fast, tough and tenacious on the field. Yet despite the fact that James was tipped for a swag of best and fairest votes that night, he decided to sneak off from the presentation early to catch one of his mates DJing in the city. Later on, James found himself in an argument over a trivial comment. This argument turned into a physical scuffle, and James and his mate were chased down a dead-end alleyway, where defenceless, he received that tragic punch. Now, I have many fond memories of my cousin James. I can remember family Christmases year after year where we'd run around the house playing chasey, table tennis, and of course the classic, backyard cricket. James was always a much better cricket player than I though, and despite my best efforts, he continually slogged me over the fence time after time. One of the final memories that I have of James was when he was gallivanting around one year with this ridiculous looking haircut, and I wish I had a photo to show you. It featured a long plaited rat tail, purely for comic value, something James was all about. Now, these memories form a stark contrast to when I went to visit James in the intensive care unit the day after his assault. And for anyone who's ever been to the intensive care unit, you'll know what I'm talking about. But the silence is quite haunting. The next vision that I can remember is the concave shape of James's head. Due to James's surgeons having to remove the front part of his skull to allow his brain room to swell. If that wasn't obvious enough, handwritten on the bandage read the words, "No bone." Now today, James still lives and breathes, but he cannot speak, laugh, or communicate in any meaningful way. He's destined to live out the rest of his days in a high care facility. As James's neurologist describes, he lives in a twilight zone where he is neither alive nor dead. In reality though, as my auntie Robin, James's mother, described in her victim impact statement, James died on the night of his assault. Now, James's attackers were found and subsequently sentenced. At the time of sentencing, the judge read, "The consequences of your actions could hardly have been more serious." James's assaulter, who was also 20 years of age, was sentenced to 7 years imprisonment. Now, since James's assault, 4 young Melbournians have lost their lives due to just one single punch. Disturbing research indicates that the frequency and severity of assaults is on the rise. News headlines consistently depict to us alcohol-related stabbings, bashings, glassings, countless stories of lives and futures lost. So, troubled by this dangerous trend, we banded together as friends and family of James, simply asking people to step back and think. It is the aim of our group to stop this alcohol-fueled violence and ensure that no one else has to endure the same pain and hurt that we still feel because of James's tragedy. So, what approaches have we taken that have been successful? Well, there's two key things that I wanted to mention, and the first is that we are young. This has been really helpful because it allows us to speak on behalf of the youth, and at the same time, it allows us to speak to the youth as peers as opposed to preachers. The second thing is, we're not saying don't drink, but simply just think. We're all about going out and having fun with your mates, but if you do find yourself in a situation that could turn sour, just think about the consequences that a single punch could have. Now, there have been many challenges along the way, and one that was a key lesson that we learned very early on that was quite difficult for us to learn was, just because you have a great message doesn't mean that it will take you anywhere. Thousands of people have shown support for our cause, indicating that young people really are showing support and do see street violence as a big issue. However, turning this support into actual success often has proven to be an uphill battle for us. Now, a key turning point for us came when we began to gain the support of some key public figures. These included people from the media, sporting and business fields, and we simply made these connections through talking to friends and family and through the school community. Once we gained this support, doors really began to open up for us, and through aligning ourselves with popular personalities and organisations, including the Australian Football League, more and more minds have been opened to our cause, and the result is a message that's becoming too loud to ignore. However, the greatest issue that we face is that people don't understand the impact a single punch can have. It's not like the movies where you can get up, dust yourself off and walk away. There are real-world consequences. The human brain is delicate and fragile. Acceptance of violence in our culture is a culturally ingrained issue. In many instances, it is celebrated by the youth. Sadly, many people think that violence is a way to blow off steam or to exert some form of dominance. This is especially true when they've had a few too many drinks. So to change these cultures, we focus heavily on education programs which inform the next generation that violence is not okay. Now, of course, realising that short-term fixes won't suffice here, our ambition is to create a stigma around street violence, modelling on the success of the anti-smoking and drink driving campaigns, which have been so successful in changing cultural mindsets. Just think, in the 70s, it was perfectly acceptable to get behind the wheel after a few drinks. Today, that behaviour is viewed as totally unacceptable. These campaigns highlight the need for a long-term strategy. But we believe if we act now, we will begin to see meaningful change in the long term and see real results such that throwing a punch will be seen as juvenile, disgraceful, as well as a behaviour that's simply avoided. Look, we understand that it is a huge task ahead for us. And in the meantime, the small victories that we've made along the way have been extremely encouraging for us. The growing awareness of the issues of street violence is one such example of these victories. It can't be denied that over the past few years, the media attention and subsequent public discussion about violence has increased. And really, in all, we believe that through awareness, we can all become educated about this issue. I'd like to finish by talking about a recent issue that happened a couple of weeks ago. A 17-year-old boy named Cameron Lowe was killed due to a single punch. What this did was prompted me to reflect on James's injury from 4 years ago. And I've got to tell you, I was devastated to hear of another young life lost from a single split-second decision that can be avoided. What this shows us is that we do have a long way to go in educating the community about the issues of violence. It Cameron's tragic death shows us about the holes in our knowledge. It is a tragic reminder of just how far there is to go in our mission to eradicate street violence. However, despite the fact that we're not there yet, we really do believe that there is a positive future. But it is something we need to begin now. We need to begin today. And we need your help. Real action begins at the community level. It starts with you and your friendship group by declaring that enough is enough and that violence is no longer an acceptable part of our society. We can continue to ask for more police and for more government action, but at the end of the day, the real difference will be made by you. Thank you.